So I hated the movie. Did not like the movie. Did not have a good time. It's ranked as the lowest one because it was the biggest disappointment to me. Um, but but about the book. And as I read my way through this, I'm probably gonna like stop and record little bits because I'm so excited. So I just want to point out the beauty of this book is the fact that I can read this in Paul Rudd's voice, not out loud, but like in my head when I'm reading it. Look out for the little guy, first of all. Obviously dedicated to Hope and Cassie. Makes sense. Here's the opening. Hi there, howdy, heya. Man, I hate introductions. If you're reading this book, first of all, thank you. Even though I can make my body as large as the Empire State Building, some days my self-esteem gets, well, ant-sized. We're 2 sentences in and I'm just like, yes, Scott Lang definitely wrote this. Even though he's not real, but we're in denial about that. So far, the first chapter seems to be like a catch-up on the MCU. I will say I did skim through, just like looking through future chapters. There's a whole chapter for Natasha. I don't know if I'm ready for that. After multiple attempts to push back against the company, attempts that one might describe as legal or reasonable or advisable, I decided to go a different route. He's a sitcom. He's so sitcom. In the time since, I've been trying to take things a bit easier. Nursing wounds, reconnecting with those I've missed, reflecting on what it all means. Oh yes, and of course writing this book. I'm liking it so far. I'm in chapter 2. I'm counting down until he mentions Luis. Okay? I want a name. He wasn't in Quantumania. He better have his own chapter. Okay? Making your house arrest a home arrest. I wasn't expecting to get any life lessons from prison other than how to survive. But looking back, I can tell you one thing I learned. How to free up my mind and create a whole life out of limited space and mobility. And I brought that freedom to my new digs. For example, the freedom to completely mix up your routine. Go to sleep standing up. Brush your teeth before you eat. For no good reason at all, set your watch to Tokyo time. Have breakfast for dinner, or, even more shockingly, dinner for breakfast. Oh my gosh, they gave us canonical reasons for why Scott did the things he did in the montage at the beginning of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Here's what we got. He expanded his interests, so close-up magic, reading books he'd always meant to, Fault in Our Stars, singing karaoke, something pre-house arrest Scott was too cool for. What will keep his sanity intact? He was barred by an international body from fighting bad guys. I needed something to pound on, so I decided to learn the drums. This was not only cathartic, it had an added sanity-preserving bonus. When I really cranked it up, my noises were disturbing enough to get the neighbors yelling into my window, "Keep it down," or "I'm trying to sleep," or "Learn a second song." Yes! Human connection! Oh, we get a pandemic mention without a pandemic mention. I kept in touch by every method available, calling, emailing, and even using some annoying video conference platform, which I guess could catch on one day. So he's talking about things he did with Cassie while he was under house arrest. So that was the dawn of the cardboard roller coaster, the cardboard robot war, the cardboard pony ride, and one ill-considered move, the cardboard water park. I can smell it. Is that bad? I can smell the cardboard water park. I can like feel it. Ugh. So this is in the chapter My Daddy, My Hero by Cassie Lang, plus a few notes from Daddy. So this is Cassie's essay about her dad. It was a school night. I was in bed. Then there was a big crash. I heard Mommy scream. And suddenly there was a giant bee guy in my room. But not a cool looking one like Ant-Man. He was an ugly looking guy with extra legs and yellow stripes everywhere. He looked like if a giant robot bee got splashed in mustard. So here's Cassie's line, and then I'm gonna read Scott's line. But then the weirdest thing happened. Daddy just disappeared. Sadly, she probably has a lot of diary entries like this. Superheroing versus parenting, the ultimate smackdown. I've done and will do a lot of unexpected things in my life, but one thing's for certain, you're never going to catch a picture of me flashing a thumbs up in my Ant-Man suit, saying one of those meme-ready blurbs like, "Parents are the real superheroes." Because honestly, it's ridiculous to even compare the two occupations. It's not even apples versus oranges. It's more like bowling balls versus porcupines. Alright, I'll let you go now. So which job ultimately takes the cape as hardest? In my experience, hands down, it's parenting. Let me just put it this way. I have yet to have a bad guy throw up on me. Some couples have a meet cute. Some meet online. Many more meet at bars than is really advisable. Hope and I had a meet weird. It all started right after our Pym Tech heist, when I was recruited by some of the Avengers to go fight some of the other Avengers. See, it's not just couples who have breakups. Sometimes it takes more than superhero strength to not be overwhelmed by a gusher of love and admiration. And when you do find yourself with them in a moment of respite, especially if it happens to be in a beautiful location, hey, sometimes supervillains like to go outside. It can get very confusing. A part of your brain is screaming, "Remember why you two are here!" while the other part is murmuring, "Hey, couldn't we just steal a moment to enjoy this nice place where we ended up together?" The dangerous part is when the pent-up, unfought fight spills over into the actual life or death one that you're currently engaged in. Oh, so you can aim the reducing disc right at the oncoming military transport vehicle, but you can't toss a t-shirt in the laundry hamper? Oh, so you'll take 3 punches to the head from a mercenary, but you're afraid to try one bite of my world-famous chili dog meatloaf? Another anxiety I felt in all of my relationships, but which takes a sharper hue on the battlefield, is one I call exposing your true self. And I don't mean the alter ego secret identity game. Let's face it. Ever since Tony Stark straight up announced to the world, "I am Iron Man," that whole move has lost its subversive cool factor. Nowadays, the only reaction I get from clearing my throat, retracting my helmet, and proclaiming in a deep, rich, dramatic baritone, "I am Ant-Man," is noted. And when Ant-Man like curly fries with that, I think this could be a reference to the What If episode with zombies. He's talking about Hope and he says, "I get to see her actually atypically be bad at something. For example, when we play a video game together. Well, let's just say that Hope would probably be better at mowing down zombies in real life. Not like that would ever happen." Is that a reference? I just want to point out, he is calling them Nat and Cap specifically. Like, there's not Captain America said, Natasha. No, he is just calling them Nat and Cap. He's just like us. He's just like us. Yay, they included my favorite joke.
Have either of you guys ever studied quantum physics?
Only to make conversation.
Sorry, I think the fact that she probably knows something about quantum physics because she knows something about everything because she's a spy is so funny, and she's just like, yeah, obviously. A little while after that being talking to Tony Stark, a raccoon from space showed up. I don't think he knew my name. I was just happy to meet a raccoon who could talk. So the 4 of us set off through the quantum tunnel and arrived in the legendary Battle of New York 2012 when the Avengers had protected the Earth from our interdimensional creeps. And now, unlike in our 2012, I was kind of taking part in the fight. Or at least, like, I was right next to it. In the end, all my distraction did was allow the alternative 2012 Loki to escape with a space stone. One can only imagine what that led to. And this is just reminding me that I have not started Loki season 2 yet, so thanks. Okay, so the second snap that brings people back, right? Our second snap had brought back billions, and yet at this moment it only took one of them for me to finally feel like my world had come back. Hope and hope together. A sight so beautiful it seemed to gleam straight into my tinted helmet. And then we all heard it. The tiny but somehow audible to thousands command of Captain America. Avengers, assemble. This is such a fandom girly book to have. Like, I became a fandom girly in high school. I'm literally just reading, like, Avengers Endgame right now. That's what this chapter is. It's catching you up on what happened in Avengers Endgame. But it's supposed to be like in world. Like, you weren't there. You don't know what's happening, so let me explain. But like, I do know what's happening. And so I'm reading it like, oh my gosh. I remember that. That was so fun. I can't remember if the Leviathan is the big thing that's in New York City or if that's a Shatari. But I drew what I think is the Leviathan. The Chitauri are the people, right? Like the alien people is the Chitauri, and the Leviathan is the big thing. Luis is not in the book yet, but we mentioned him by name because we mentioned the van. He's talking about the scene where they're all like, "Get the Infinity Gauntlet to the van," and he's in the van. He's talking about it, and he refers to the Infinity Gauntlet as the ultimate baton. I have no notes. Before I could say duck, it ended Luis's van. Rest in peace, my rolling, earth-tone striped buddy. You lived a life of heroic errandry. Errandry? I've never read that word in my life. I know this is the last part of the big story you were counting on me to tell. What the Avengers asked me to tell. Probably the main reason you bought the book. But I don't want to describe it. I don't want to relive it, even in my mind. In fact, I'm going to pull rank and declare that I don't need to. The final moments of Iron Man, the original Avengers assembler himself, are best left unspoken. But there's really just one critical thing you, dear reader, need to know about what happened that day. Tony Stark, a man who either had or could have had literally anything he wanted in the world, instead gave up his life to save the world. There are no words that can capture that feeling. There's no way for me, or anyone really, to count how many perished on that field or in the rest of the galaxy with so many heroes trying to stop Thanos. All I know is the sacrifices were unmistakably heroic and clear and obvious to all, but possibly only to a dad who had lost time with a little girl so many times, who had just had a tiny shot at life with her, fully grasp what else Tony Stark was giving up. And it kills me even more. I can barely write this without tearing up. To think, knowing all that, knowing and feeling the same things I feel about that, Tony still chose to be the self-sacrificing hero. The guy who needed to show up and step up to do the job right then and there. And he did. So in the end, our world got back half of its people, but lost a truly great man. And now we get a whole chapter of just that one scene where they're trying to figure out time travel and Scott ends up a bunch of different ages. Yep, it's a whole chapter. You can totally see just like the roll of toilet paper I have on my bed. I have it because sometimes my nose runs, okay? I eat hot food, my nose runs. I just want to point out, and this is slight spoilers for another book, so I'm not going to say what it is, and if you know, put spoiler and then like comment what you think the book is. This is one of 2 books I had pre-ordered, that came out in September. And both of them have plots where a grown character becomes a younger version of themselves, and then when they're older again, they react about how weird that was. What are the freaking odds? All right, here's some questions and answers. Can you explain exactly how the time heist worked? No, I cannot. How on earth are you supposed to find parking in San Francisco? Let's just say there are many advantages to being able to shrink your car. So we have a whole chapter about Black Widow, and here's something we have that I really like. I think it's funny. It wasn't always easy to learn about her. Even to those who knew her best, Natasha Romanoff was always a woman of secrets. Secret past, secret family, surprisingly even a secret dislike of shawarma. Secrecy was a part of her mystique. And it was often one of her greatest weapons. After all, her first introduction to Tony Stark was infiltrating his company and spying on him by pretending to be his new assistant, Natalie Rushman. Not many people can pull one over on Tony Stark. Nat was not many people. Speaking of fights and wrist shocks, if you're somehow reading this somewhere, Nat, don't worry about that first tussle we had. Because in the end, the only person who got hurt was me, for not getting to be your pal. I'm about to sob. I'm about to literally sob again, like I did in theaters watching Endgame. I don't know who ghost wrote this book, but I hate you. Also, I love you. I'm having a really good time. Most chapters end with like a serious message. So, like, we have a whole chapter about like, here's what it's like to be like Giant Man, here's what it's like to be Ant-Man, and then like in comparison to Scott Lang, and then like the end, like the last page of this chapter is him talking about like, sometimes we're like that when we're in places of power, where like we'll be over someone and we'll forget like how to act. What is it he said? We can shrink into self-doubt from what we're truly capable of, or we can inhabit our new power boldly but forget the humble size we began as. I think that's really funny. I think it's really funny for me. I read a lot of Christian life books, and they'll always do that where it's like random story, but like here's the moral. And so I think it's really funny to read like Ant-Man's book and it's doing the same thing that like Christine Kane and Jenny Allen are doing. I'm just like, okay. But like also that's good. It's nice to have like, it's just a silly little fandom book. It's nonsense. You don't have to own it, but then have it be like, have like some actual like good inspiring messages. I guess that's what you want from superheroes, but like it's Ant-Man. When I think of Ant-Man, I think silly little dude. So the fact that this silly little dude is like, to know how to be big, first you must remember what it's like to be small. I hope by now we've gotten comfortable enough for me to lay something on you that's so shocking I'm struggling to even type out the words. I've made a few mistakes in my time. Scott, you were literally in prison. Page 148, another mention of Luis. He does not have his own chapter yet. We have not heard a single story about him. Okay, I'm no longer mad. Page 150, we get Luis. He's talking about Luis, his friend, the one who's always been there for him, the one who didn't even get a cameo in Quantumania. Kevin? I'm coming for you for that. Okay? I'm mad about it. Here's another Q&A moment. Can you introduce me to the Avengers? Man, if I had a nickel for every time I got asked this. You didn't hear this from me, but if you really want to meet a superhero, may I humbly suggest putting yourself in mortal danger from an otherworldly being. He's talking about inequality, and he says, even the quietest, that's not cool, or take it easy, can ring louder than the Hulk stepping barefoot on a thumbtack. I want my writing to be this good. I mean, my writing is this good. Go buy my book. If this were a book, well, I mean, besides the one it already is, it wouldn't have been so much how to win friends and influence people as how not to have people reject you and maybe one day consider you a friend or at least not a total creeper. So he's talking about the different kinds of ants, and he says, there's also a class called Scout Ants, which neither escort old ladies across the stream nor sell extremely tiny mint-flavored chocolate cookies. When you're a Girl Scout. Okay, still in this conversation of ants. They are extremely sensitive at reading vibrations on the ground through a special organ located under their knees. Can you imagine? Wow, Doris, get a load of this! You will not believe your kneecaps! When I enter giant mode, I'm the opposite of Captain America. I can do that for, well, not all day. This chapter title is Sunday in the Lab with Hank, which I think is a twist on Sunday in the Park with George, which is a Sondheim musical. And the theater kid in me is like screaming. The actual me is not screaming because my mom's downstairs working and I don't want to give her a heart attack. If you followed my story at all, and by the way, the beginning of this book would be a great place to start. We also have a reference to the most annoying post-credit scene I've ever waited for. Yes, I am counting the Captain America one from Homecoming. Until now, PIM particles have primarily been used to change the size of regular sized things. Me and you, a toy tank, an ant with the dreams of becoming a drummer. Side note, the only reason that is the most annoying post-credit scene for me is because it was just after we watched like 3 characters get dusted and were reminded of the horrors of the end of Infinity War. And then it's just like, and here's an ant playing drums. We're having fun, right? We're having fun. So we have a whole chapter about like Hank and the science and stuff behind Ant-Man. It's towards the end. It's more about like the ethics of stuff. Like, well, if you have this like shrinking, growing technology, why aren't we making things bigger, making things smaller? I mean, like global disasters, how do we help that? And he's like, well, because it infects environments and stuff like that. And I'm just sitting here like, listen, if I wanted to talk about ethics, I'd be watching The Good Place right now. Check out my video on The Good Place. A letter to my daughter that for some reason you people are also reading. Sure, our planet will continue to face threats and problems, but on the whole, it's a pretty good world. I'm glad we saved it. So that brings me to now, as in, what do I do with it? Great question. I'll let you know as soon as I have the answer. Do I miss the action? Sometimes.
Will I be there when the Avengers need me? Absolutely. I'd never turn my back on them. But right now, the only job I want is being a dad. I love you, Cassie. Thanks for being my hero. And I'm sorry I missed some birthdays. And for the rest of you kids out there, word of advice. Look out for the little guy. Make mistakes. Take chances. Because if there's one thing life's taught me, there's always room to grow.
Yeah, I recorded that on my TV because I couldn't find a clip. What about it? So we have our acknowledgments, as there is at the end of every book, and it has a good paragraph of like, here's all the fictional characters we have to thank because this is written by a fictional character. But the second paragraph is about a guy named Rob Kuttner, who I'm guessing actually wrote this. So Rob, if you're somehow watching this, I hope that would be so fun. Thank you. I can't imagine writing a book from the perspective of a fictional character. I mean, I do that, but it's my fictional character, so it's different. This book is amazing. I'm having such a good time. Also, for my audience, not for Rob, I would like to point out the end of the book has like Marvel Studios, Ant-Man, Captain America, Civil War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the Avengers Endgame are now available in digital and physical formats wherever movies are sold and are also streaming on Disney+. First of all, of course Disney had to promote their stuff. Also, 2 of those 4 movies I have on DVD. But neither one is the Ant-Man movie. So that's Ant-Man's book, summary of excerpts. I am sorry this video took me so long to get out. This book came out over a month ago, and I got it the day it came out. But during that time, I had another book come out, aforementioned. It is not in shot, but it is in shot. Yeah, so I've just been procrastinating it because it wasn't working on reading this for the video, but here I am doing it for a video. I just make videos about things that I want. I try not to do like, it has to be done by a certain time because otherwise nobody's gonna watch my video because there's gonna be other videos on it. Listen, if you're here for a good time and some laughs, you're gonna watch the video no matter what. And that's what's great. I'm making videos I wanna make. You're watching videos you wanna watch, hopefully. And that was Scott's book. Needless to say, though, this video did take forever to edit, and there was a bunch of stuff I had to edit out to get it down for time, so if you would not mind giving me a like, a comment, or subscribing, that would be great, but you don't have to, because who cares? So, thanks for watching. Alright, recreating one of the scores from Ant-Man, titled World's Greatest Grandma, but I won't re-listen to it, I'm just doing it from memory. Okay, go. Dun 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 So I 100% bought that book because I thought it would be funny. And then it was actually fun, so here I am.